welcome back to Folklore Unlocked. And we are here now with Austin.
What's up?
Yeah. And we're going to be doing Gremlins today. So, what are gremlins? Like, what is a gremlin? It is a mischievous folklore creature invented around the beginning of the 20th century when, like, industrial revolution and stuff like that. And when, like, a lot of machinery is being used. It was used as an excuse for why aircrafts, machines were malfunctioning and stuff like that and just not working correctly. And some of the depictions of these creatures vary widely, but here's a picture of one that, like, oh, the floor greasers, gremlins, like, watch your step, kind of like they're doing mischievous stuff. They're especially popular during and after World War II, and some claimed they were also around during World War One. And it was started in the Royal Air Force, the British Air Force. Some of the
Of course, the British would invent would invent something during the Industrial Revolution.
yeah. Okay, so some of the depictions of gremlins, I have a few different ones here. So one I have from the 1984 film Gremlins, and we have a Gizmo and Stripe here, and they look very much different than like between the two, but they're the same thing technically. And they are evil and destructive monsters which mutated from the small furry creatures. So they went from this nice furry gizmo to Stripe that's very destructive and creepy looking. There were three rules inside the film Gremlins. The three rules being that they needed to avoid light because it would kill them. Uh, they had to stay away. They could not get wet because if they did, they would multiply and there'd be tons of them. And then if you feed them after midnight, they turn into the gremlin-like stripe there. Another one being from the 1963 episode of Twilight Zone, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, which I've watched this one and it's still kind of creepy. Just look at that guy's face. And then, of course, the World War II safety posters that I'll have like around all the slides, and they just hurt you. They just hurt you.
With how much the Twilight Zone has covered, I'm surprised it took us 7 episodes to get a Twilight Zone reference in.
Oh, I know. I love the Twilight Zone. Okay. So let's talk about the Gremlins movie because this is where I get most of my stuff from the Gremlins, and this is what I remember most of the time. So of course we have the nice fuzzy one, Gizmo here, and then we have Stripe down here with the little mohawk on. And it was 1984 American comedy horror, I guess you could consider it movie. And basically, a man gets a new pet for his son, and of course, the son does not follow any of the directions that were given about the pet, and panic ensues. The gremlins go around making messes everywhere and whatnot. The care instructions were, of course, like I said before, do not expose the mogwai to light because this will kill it. Do not let it come in contact with water because it will cause it to reproduce. And never feed it after midnight or it turns into the gremlin.
And Mogwai is from Chinese culture and is the transliteration of the Cantonese word meaning monster, evil spirit, devil, or demon, which inflicts harm on humans. And like Ethan stated, reproduction is triggered by coming rain, which of course is water. So, some are origins of the gremlins. It comes from the old English word Mayan, which means to vex, And another thing that I'm surprised that we haven't touched on yet is the Brother Grimm's fairy tales and Fremlin beer. So you get Grim Lin. And it could also be the word goblin with the name of the most common beer available in the RAF in the 1920s, which, like mentioned, was Fremlin beer. And Pauline Gower's 1938 novel, The ATA Women with Wings, where Scotland is described as Gremlin country, and it was popularized during World War II among the airmen of the RAF, when flight crews blamed gremlins for otherwise inexplicable accidents, which occasionally occurred during their flights. So you want to cover Roald Dahl?
Yep, I'll go ahead and do that. So the Gremlins was a book, I think. Yeah. So it was first a children's book that was written by the author Roald Dahl, and it's credited with getting the Gremlins known outside the Royal Air Force. And the manuscript was actually sent to Walt Disney for like to make either a TV show or movies or anything else. And Gremlins were tiny men that lived on the Royal Air Force fighters. And that's a little bit different than the Gremlins we know from the Gremlins movie. But December 1942, an issue of Cosmetology magazine had the Gremlins, a revised version, was published as a picture book. The film project was canceled in August 1943 because of copyright and RAF rights activists and stuff like that. So that film was never actually made.
Which I'm surprised because even in the 1940s, Disney was a pretty big film company. So surprised they just didn't buy the copyrights and all that.
Yeah.
And some possible signs is that one crewman claims he saw one before an engine malfunction that caused his B-25 Mitchell bomber to rapidly lose altitude, which is a problem, a very big problem. And then a folklore Hazen claims he found a parted cable which bore obvious tooth marks, and the gruff voice that demanded, "How many times must you be told to obey orders and not tackle jobs you aren't qualified for? This is how it should be done." Upon which Hazen heard a musical twang and another cable was parted. But in both cases, mischievous actions were taken by these supposed gremlins.
I think that last one with Hayes in there is kind of hilarious because it's just imagine you're sitting there and like all of a sudden you hear a voice that you've never heard before saying, "Oh, this is how you do it," and then gung, another cable breaks and you're like, "Oh."
Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised that in the previous 6 episodes, no Twilight Zone, no Brothers Grimm, and then we get the this episode of the Gremlins, and we get both of them in.
Hey, I'm just trying to bring them all in, man. I'm just trying to bring it all out.
My thoughts is that the Gremlins are probably more than likely a hoax due to aviation being a relatively new concept in the military and for the everyday person in the 20th century. Because I don't quote me, but I think the first successful flight was in what like 1890 something, early 1900s. So like airplanes were basically a brand new technology, and not many people were really used to them at this time.
So my thoughts, kind of like Austin's there. I think Gremlins are made up. All problems with the aircrafts and machines probably have a reasonable explanation, either them being like older parts that have just eventually broken, or possibly it could be like maintenance people not quite fixing stuff right, or just like anything like that. And most likely the parts were just getting old, breaking, leading to malfunctions. And even though I do like the Gremlins movies and stuff like that, and I like the idea of Gremlins, but I really doubt they actually exist. But I did not learn much about the like Gremlins, like the original ones during like World War II and stuff, till I started learning about this stuff. I just knew about the Gremlins in the movie, and those things are a whole lot different than the ones that originally came about. But yeah, still pretty cool stuff.
Well, they do have stuff in common apparently. Very mischievous.
Yeah, they have a lot in common, and even though they don't like breed with like water and stuff like that, or eat at midnight, or sunlight, or anything like that, there's a little bit differences, but
But I think that's all we've got this week, unless you've got anything to add.
no, I think that's about it.
Well, thanks for listening on Spotify. Th- Thanks for watching on YouTube. And if you don't mind, hit that like button and leave a comment if you're on YouTube, and hit that subscribe button. If you're on Spotify, hit that follow button.
Yep, thanks for watching, everyone.